Hello and welcome. So in this video, ladies and gentlemen, what we are gonna do, we are gonna finish the register functionality. Okay, so if you remember in the previous videos, we have designed the main activity, okay, and also the register activity right here, and also the login activity. Okay, so here, ladies and gentlemen, you may be noticed that I have just removed some margin and add some padding, so on and so forth, and maybe changing the names. Okay, this is all up related to the design. Okay, I didn't make too big changes. Okay, however, let's continue on. So here we have the login, we have the register activity. Now what we can do, as I said, we are going to finish the register account functionality. Now here, as you can see, we have two edit text plus a button. Okay, and all of these has an IDs. Okay, so what we are going to do, let's open our register activity. So here what we are going to do, we are going to create three variables and we are going to fetch our views. So let's call var, here let's call it user underscore email. Okay, and this should be of type edit text, right? And edit text not editable. Okay, and we need to give it the value null first. Okay, we are going to initialize it later on. So the same thing for our user password, user underscore password. Okay, and this should be also of type edit text in this case, and we are going to give it the value null. Okay, last but not least, we are going to do the same thing for our button, and here we miss an equal sign. So yeah, now let's go ahead and do the same thing for our button. Okay, so here var, let's call it register underscore btn, it's equal to null. Okay, and we need to give it the null safety right here, and also the type, so button and the question mark. Now we are done with all these three views. Now let's go ahead and fetch them or initialize them here inside the onCreate function. So let's type user email, it's equal to the find view by id method r.id dot, it was user underscore register underscore email. Okay, and let's do the same thing for our password, it's equal to the find view by id method r.id dot user underscore register underscore password. And last, our button here, register btn, it's equal to the find view by id method r.id dot register. Okay, now everything is done. Now what we can do, simply what we want to do, once the user click on the register, we are going to do all of our job, right? So let's type register btn dot set on click listener. Okay, and here we can implement all of our code. Okay, what we are going to do, simply we are going to call a function, let's call it register user. Okay, and here on the bottom we are going to create this function. So let's type a private fun and let's call it register user. Okay, and here we are going to implement everything that we want to do. But first of all, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, for registering an account or a user, what we want to do, we want to create a Firebase auth. Okay, so let's go ahead and create Firebase auth here. So Firebase auth. Okay, and it should be of type Firebase auth. Okay, and also we can give it value null first. Okay, and the onCreate function, we are going to initialize this. Okay, so let's type Firebase auth, it's equal to the Firebase auth dot get instance. Now we are done to use this Firebase auth. So if you watch, ladies and gentlemen, the video of register account, you probably know all this stuff. Okay, there is no real thing in you until this point. Now we need here to store the email and password in the variables, I mean the actual text, not the field. Here we are storing the field, okay, the inputs, but here we want to fetch the actual text that will come from the user. So let's create two variables. First one will be email, and this should be equal to the user email field dot text dot toString, and we want to trim it also. Okay, let's do the same thing with our password like this. It's equal to the user password field dot text. Okay, and we want to also convert it to string, and we want to trim it, okay, to get rid of all unnecessary spaces. Now what we can do, we can validate to these variables if the user leave everything empty or not. For that we are going to use the text utils. So I'm just going to type if text utils dot is empty, and we want to check for what? For the email, right? And also in the same line I'm just going to type and, the and operator. Okay, that means it will validate this and this. Okay, so we can type text utils dot is empty for our password, right? So password. Here, ladies and gentlemen, what it's gonna do, the and operator, it's gonna validate this and this. Okay, so this should be true and this should be true also. If one of them is false, then our code will not run. Okay, so if this is empty and this is empty also, we can toast a message for the user, toast dot make text. We need to give it the context. I'm just going to type application context, and we need to give it the message here. So let's type this field, okay, cannot be empty. Let's say cannot be empty. Okay, and what we want to do, we want to give it the duration of the toast. So type toast dot short, and we want to show this also. Now we are done to provide the else case, which will hold the right expression for our code. Okay, so in the else case, that means the user enter his email and his password. What we can do, we can type Firebase auth, okay, dot create user with email and password. Now this function is a predefined function that has been stored in Firebase, and we are going to use it to create a new user with his email and password. So let's click on create user with email and password. Now here it will ask us for two things. The first one is the email, which we can type email, simply the variable name that we have provided here, and the second one is the password. So let's just type password, right? Now what we can do, this will work, but what we want to do, we want to follow the best practice. Okay, so we are going to type dot add on complete listener, but before that let's add the null safety dot add on complete listener. Now ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of methods right here. For example, the add on success listener, and this function will get executed if everything was successful. Okay, but I'd like to use the incomplete listener because it will give us two cases. The first one, if everything was successful, then we are good to go. If the second one it's not successful, that means we can print the error for the user. Okay, this is my point. And here what we can do, we can choose the on complete listener. Okay, and you know the reason why we do this. Okay, so just type it on complete listener. Here we need to create a variable, so let's call it object, and this should be of type on complete listener. And here we need to give it the auth result because we are expecting an authentication result, right? And here I'm just gonna override one method, which is the on complete method. Okay, and here ladies and gentlemen, we have this variable called b0. I do not like these names. Okay, so let's just write more human readable. In this case I'm just gonna type task, or let's call it auth. Why task? Auth will do great. Now let's remove this to do, okay, because it's being added automatically. Now what we can do, we need to check. Now our result has been stored in this variable called auth. So what we can do, we can type if auth dot is successful, that means everything was successful. We can simply just toast, or let me just copy the toast because it's really annoying to just rewrite the toast. Okay, paste the toast right here, and we are gonna call it account created. So account created like this. Okay, and what we can do also here you are free to do whatever you want. Okay, so once the user create his account, you can do whatever you want. In this case, what we can do, we can either send him to our dashboard, okay, or we can send him to the login activity, right? So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm just gonna send him maybe to the login activity. Okay, so let's do this. So start activity for an intent. Okay, so type intent, and what we want to go from this activity, this at register activity, and we want to go simply to the login activity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are free to send him wherever you want. For example, in the dashboard activity that you are going to create it in a second. Okay, so login activity class.java. Okay, this is the first case that we are going to run into, which is if everything was successful. The second one, it's the error. Okay, if everything was not good. Okay, for example, the user has no internet connection, or let's say any error that we can expect. Okay, so let's create variable, let's call it error. It's equal to the auth, because as I said, the auth now store the successful and the unsuccessful results. Okay, that's why we can access everything from it. So type auth dot exception and dot message will give us the error, and now we can toast the error for the user. Okay, so we can type error was something like this, error. Okay, and this should be done for our case. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you get familiar with this stuff. Okay, because now we are using less code. Okay, and I think it's really easy. It does not contain too complicated stuff. For example, do this and that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, quick note here. If you watch the verification lesson, okay, I told you that will be more secure, more powerful application, and you need to implement the verification functionality in all your application. Okay, so I already explained how to verify your users. Okay, for example, here the user can enter anything. For example, he can enter something like this at gmail.com. Okay, now our application will accept this. Okay, because in this case it will accept it. Okay, because there is no real validation goes here. Okay, but if you watch the verification email lesson, then you are more welcome to add the verification functionality. I'm not gonna add it once again, just for time saving. Of course, I already explained it. That's why I'm not gonna add it. You can go ahead and implement it with your own. Okay, so as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, our register functionality, it's really easy. We have implemented successfully. Okay, now our user will be able to create his own account. Okay, so in the next video we are gonna finish the login functionality. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and we are gonna continue on in the next video.